Hello and welcome to the morning after show. My name is Joshua Reimer. As many of you know me as Roto Radar Reimer, and I am joined by my co-host for all these morning after shows. It's none other than Jared Block. Jared, no, you must be a happy camper. The last few Mondays that you've gotten on, you haven't been a happy camper, but feels like Tuesday's always been the turnaround point. So tell us how your Monday night went, and tell us how you liked the game.
Yeah, it's always nice waking up on a Tuesday morning with celebrating a Packers win. So, very excited for the team. Very good bounce back spot. Not going to gloat too much because again, it is the Lions. So, uh, not too much to again get. I mean, I'm excited that the offense is back. The defense obviously looked really rough in the first half, but they got it going. And Aaron Jones, I'm glad we signed the dude because we could have given him away in free agency not less than even 7 months ago.
Yeah, pretty insane to watch that game. It was a good game to say the least. It was exciting. It was fun to watch. Just going through the chat, D Ramified said, "Them Packers look good, fellas," and said, "Good morning." Good morning, D Ramified. Econic said, "Good morning." Will Harp said, "It's time." I love it. Life of Goosey said, "Josh with the sick hat." Yeah, we brought out the Lakers hat because we got a little bit of NBA to talk about today. So wanted to make sure to have the appropriate attire for the show today. What's going on, everyone? Outside of that, there wasn't much else to talk about. There wasn't much baseball even to talk about yesterday, so it's gonna be a fun show. We get to talk about some MLB. We get to talk about some breaking news in the NBA. We get to talk about NFL. We get to talk about our Week 2 overreactions, which I'm personally very excited for. But yeah, you know, it is what it is. Just to give you guys a little bit of an announcement, or I guess not an announcement necessarily, to give you guys a reminder, we are launching our NFT tomorrow, which we are super pumped for over here with the Shot to the Moon team. We will, because of that, be going live at the same exact time for the morning after show, but the Strong Side stream will be at 10:30 instead of being at what time do we usually go live at? 12? Or I guess 11:30 Eastern instead of 1:30 Eastern. Maybe I'm wrong on that. I don't know. You can correct me.
Yeah, no, 11:30 tomorrow Eastern time is correct. Just like an hour and a half earlier than normal to make sure that we have all our bases covered for everything else for you guys.
Yep, for sure. Just want to be off the air once that stuff starts because Vaughn and Sean are doing a whole bunch of fun stuff. You need to make sure to keep updated on that because it's going to be a blast tomorrow. Jared, if you have nothing else for the starting segment, then we can move over to talk about some NFL.
Let's do it.
All right. Before we do, Jaku said, speaking of NBA, when is Philly dealing with Simmons nonsense? Tip off only a month away. We will talk about that because I actually saw a headline about that yesterday. So we'll talk about that when we get to the NBA segment. But let's get into some NFL. Feels like we always start off with NFL. You know, there was a lot to talk about that came out yesterday. And I don't know if you're watching the stream, Jared, but you sent me a picture last night in our production chat, and I just was like, I gotta get this on the stream. So for those who don't know, it's that picture over there with Aaron Jones, and it was a great game for you guys. It was a good bounce back game, right? What kind of surprised me is how much Aaron Jones was involved. I mean, it was insane to see him grab 4 touchdowns. I think one was on the ground, three in the air. Like he had a
Yep.
game. Talk about it. Why do you think they include him? Do you think it's a smart move, and do you think this is something that the Packers are going to do from now on?
Yep. So it was explained very well on the Manning's broadcast, which if you guys aren't checking out on Monday night, make sure you please go ahead and check that one out. It's on ESPN2. You can obviously, if you're streaming it, you can have the option to stream that specific one. They basically have Eli and Peyton bringing on guests, and they talk about what they. So there's no commentators at all. It's just them talking through what they're seeing and kind of like reminiscing on what they would do if they were in that situation. So now I say all that to just say that they were spot on with the Aaron Jones assessment last night. They saw that Detroit was playing too high safety the entire game. Those safeties never came in, and they were kind of just playing the waiting game with Rodgers because, obviously when you're playing too high like that, the defense obviously is trying to maintain deeper throws. So then you saw the first half they were just pounding Jones, pounding Jones, pounding Jones, and then maybe doing wide receiver roll-offs on the side for screen passes. But then eventually they made some bad calls on defense, turned that double high into a single high, and Rodgers was able to find Adams on that long throw in the third quarter. And then, yeah, it just continued to spiral like that. So basically, they were just playing the waiting game and making sure Rodgers was patient or not, and he was enough to make those things happen and let the game evolve on its own. But they obviously weren't able to stop the run for the majority of the game. And when they got to the red zone, that kind of surprised me a little bit, just because it's very unlikely that we see Aaron Jones get 3 dump off screen passes for touchdowns. That's
No.
probably not going to happen again this year, but I was kind of surprised that they didn't go to Adams enough in the red zone. Uh, They weren't even double teaming him really. Like they were doing the same too high kind of scheme even in the red zone too. So it was very interesting to watch. But again, I don't think we need to overreact necessarily. But I do think Jones. I mean, he's had that 5 touchdown game before. He's had 4 against Dallas. So yeah, I mean, they're used to seeing that happen every now and then, but it's not going to be a weekly thing. The one thing I will say is that they are going to get him more involved than they did, obviously last week, which we saw, and I think last night was a special game for him. And I didn't want to bring this up in the chat or in my article, but Aaron Jones did lose his father recently, and it was not announced on the broadcast at all until after the game. And he brought it up and he said that he had a necklace with his father's ashes in it that he was wearing the whole game. And then on that 4th touchdown, when he got in and it actually fell off of him, they found it. It was in the end
Oh,
zone
okay.
after the game was over. But yeah, that was one of the reasons why I really liked the play last night in DFS. But didn't want to really give that reason as to why I liked him because he was in such a good spot. So
Yeah.
very interesting scenario, but I think that had a lot to do with the team's motivation to give him the ball last night.
Yeah, I was just about to bring up the thing about the necklace. I thought that was so interesting, and I saw our good friend Eric Rosenthal tweet about it. It was like, someone help him find his
Yep.
necklace. So I was gonna
hmm
ask if there was any resolution to it, but yeah, I know Econics also said awesome. Was wondering if they found it. Good to know that they did find it though. Definitely good to know that they found it. Yeah, I mean that's an awesome story, right? Lose your father recently, and then you have a game like that. It's a feel good spot for Aaron Jones and for the Packers. So you know what? Good for him. It is what it is. He didn't do much on the ground. I mean, 17 for 67 yards is good enough, right? But everything they did through the air looked really good. Devontae Adams looked really good in those long bombs that he needed to look good in. Aaron Rodgers looked like he was back to being good old Aaron Rodgers, right? And it just everything looks solid for the Packers. I don't have any complaints except for maybe that defense during the first half, and that's what we can talk about here with Goff. Goff did not have a bad game. I want to get that clear and out of the way first. Like if Goff had a decent defense here, I don't know if he would have won, but it would have been closer. It was not a bad game from Goff. Ended up the stat line was 26 for 36 with 246 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. He also had the most rushing yards on the team. He had 4 carries for 46 yards. So I don't know. We all made fun of the Lions picking up Goff, and we all said that like, oh, this is a spot that they're just it's a bridge QB to go to the next rookie or whatever else they want to do. But is this a spot where they could possibly depend on Goff and use him as a centerpiece of this team?
I will say that so they were talking about this on the broadcast last night too, and I think I feel for the dude a little bit. He was obviously put in a bad spot, wasn't able to pick where he wanted to go. He was on the opposite side of Stafford's decision basically, and Stafford knew exactly what he wanted to do and could make that decision and force that hand. But Goff had no say in any of that. So being sent to a new team with a new system, uh, completely different cadence calls, completely different everything. So last night on the broadcast, they were saying, and you could hear it too if you were watching the game. He would make audible calls and make random calls to his team that were used in the Rams scheme, and that Lions did have had no idea what that meant. And that happened on a few plays, and that's why some of those plays were botched. Now it's going to take some time for him to get used to things, but I think that this team will start to pick up some steam later on in the season as things get more comfortable. He has no wide receivers right now. The ones that are out there played well last night. I think that there will be guys that step up. I know Hawkinson looked amazing, so I'm not gonna say anything bad about him. He's taking the leap that we thought he would. The rest of the team, they'll get hopefully healthier. Maybe they'll make an acquisition here and there. Maybe it's time for one of these new guys to step up. Maybe a Benson or a Quintez Cephas. They both looked pretty good last night. So with that being said, I think that I wouldn't wave the white flag just yet on the Lions. They're not going to be a good football team this year. But after things start, coming into form, I think that with DeAndre Swift's development, that's a pretty good 1-2 punch in the NFL in terms of running backs for him and Williams. So I liked what they're going with. It's going to take some time, and they obviously have some things to work on defense. Jeff Okudah's injury is obviously shattering to that defensive core. He's
No.
their captain, he was their leader, and now he's not going to be able to play this entire season. He's has the ability to be one of the best cornerbacks in the league, and I think he will get there probably in the next 2 years.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see his progression, especially after the injury. Um, I don't know. I guess the thing, I don't want to overreact again, but this is supposed to be a defense that you can run on with the Packers. I'm kind of surprised that Swift and Williams didn't do more throughout this game. I mean, I'm surprised they didn't get more carries. I know they were kind of behind, so they were probably in a bad game script. But you got 8 carries for 37 yards from Swift and 7 carries for 25 yards from Jamal. One, are you freaking out as a DeAndre Swift owner in fantasy? Like, are you hitting the red button right now saying, well, maybe I'm more screwed than I thought I'd be?
Not necessarily, depending on where you drafted him, right? He was always kind of that guy that was at the bottom tier of that third, fourth round of running backs. Now, I'm concerned about them being down all the time and not being able to utilize the run further than the second quarter, because that's what we saw last night. They were actually running the ball quite well in the first half and going back and forth between Williams and Swift. Now, at the end of the game, obviously there were bad decisions made, there were fumbles lost, there were turnovers that happened. You saw in the fourth quarter, and I know it was garbage time, but they again used the same format that they used against the Niners, where they were just dumping off checkdowns to Williams and Swift. And that's where I think your fantasy points are going to come from most of the second half of games, unless they're in those games. But yeah, I think that again, Anthony Lynn, who's their OC, is usually a guy that's not going to overreact too much to being down by a lot of points. But over the last 2 weeks, he's looked really, pass heavy when he gets down by 2 touchdowns. He's had 2 good sample sizes of that now, and they've thrown 70% plus or higher in those situations. So that kind of takes away the majority of Swift's game. But again, those guys should see the most targets on the field, only behind TJ Hawkinson. So not sure if I would throw the white flag on that yet again, but it's definitely kind of scary, especially when you expect that this guy's going to run all over this defense, and he only puts up 46 yards or 42 yards, something like that. I thought that they actually ran way more on the Packers than it actually did. So I think it was something that we watched on the broadcast, and we said, "Oh, they're actually running this team into the ground in the first half," and then they just completely stopped.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what those running backs are going to be able to do there in Detroit because I agree with you. It's concerning in the fact that I don't know how much they get used once it comes to the third and fourth quarter. It doesn't seem like a lot. I'm not going to say this Lions team loses all 17 games, but they're going to lose a majority of those 17 games.
Yeah,
So it's just going to be tough, you know? It's going to be tough for this team to get it done. I'm so happy about TJ Hawkinson, and this is more from a season long fantasy perspective because I've talked about how this guy is going to take the next step. It was pretty hard to just not say that he was going to take the next step because of just how good he is, how limited the rest of the team is. He's now the third overall tight end. I'm trying to think of who he's behind. I know Kelsey's one of them, but who would be the second highest scoring tight end in?
well, yeah, second highest is probably, I mean, the majority
Oh,
of people would say Waller and then Kittle.
I think it's
But
Gronk.
Hawkinson,
Like the
oh,
actual
this
scorer
season?
this season. I think
Oh,
it's
this season,
Kelsey and Gronk.
Gronk's, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Or it
No,
might be Gronk and Kelsey, actually. uh,
yeah. I mean,
yeah.
it's up there, but if we're talking at the end of the season or maybe midway through the season, I think people are expecting TJ to be in that breakout range, and he could have a better season than Andrews when it's all said and done.
He could have a better season than Kittle if they're not passing to Kittle. I mean,
I
Kittle has
agree.
been outside of the game plan for the first 2 weeks. So maybe
I
that
agree.
changes once we see Trey Lance in the game a little bit more. Maybe we see that typical, rookie throwing to his big tight end, and maybe we see Kittle provide some stuff there. But the thing with Kittle is that like they're perfectly fine with not throwing him the ball because they
Yeah.
use him in so many other ways. They use him in the run game. He's such a great blocker.
Yep.
He's such a great intensity type of guy. They're perfectly fine with not throwing him the ball, just that way so he can do those other things. So I don't know, just something to keep an eye on. T.J. Hawkinson would be a guy that you're paying a high price tag for right now, but I would go out and try to get him wherever I can. All right. We've talked about Monday Night Football plenty. Anything else you want to talk about with Monday Night Football? If not, we have a few headlines that I want to touch on from the NFL uh, news yesterday.
Yeah, the one thing I will say that we nailed yesterday was the over of the game. That was a success, huge smash. And then the second one was obviously the best bet of the day. Hope you guys took advantage of it. It was Aaron Rodgers throwing over 2.5 touchdowns, and the Green Bay Packers win. With that being said, we did have a tweet promotion last night for betonline.ag, and we will be giving away a $50 cash prize
Ooh.
at the end of this stream. So if you're on the stream
Sweet.
tuning in, we're giving away $50 straight cash to somebody that comments in the chat. We'll be talking some NBA futures, I believe, on the show. So we'll be paying attention to your guys' close comments throughout the rest of the show. Yeah, again, if you hit that yesterday, that was plus 121 odds. So you should be up pretty big if you hit that and the over last night.
Pretty sure it was more than plus 121. I think 121 was the
Oh, the
original
odds
odds
booster.
for
Yep.
that. The odds
Mhm.
booster got you to plus 175. So,
That's right. That's right.
just money making season, baby. Bet online might have taken your ass over the weekend, Jared, but I'm sure
I
you
got
made
them
it
back
back.
today.
You made it back quite a bit last night. All
Mhm.
right, we got news about Kenny Gallaudet. We all know that last Thursday we were seeing that he was yelling at Daniel Jones, or was he? He comes out and clarifies yesterday he's actually yelling at Jason Garrett. And bro, I was just like, I saw that and I was like, I'm taking my victory laps on the stream because I talk so much about how I hate Jason Garrett. I think he's so limited. I think he's an absolutely terrible OC. And this certainly doesn't prove it necessarily because, Galladay's just yelling at him because he's frustrated with the system. But what does this mean? I mean, we're already seeing some frustrations with Garrett. If this Giants team continues to lose, do we even see Garrett on the team after this season?
That's always tough, right? Because he went there specifically with the coaching staff involved. But yeah, I laughed so hard when I read that because you know people always blame it on the quarterback and they always blame it on him. But when it comes down to things like we talked about it, Daniel Jones did not have a bad game the other day, and Galladay is upset that he's not getting more involved. It has to do with the amount of checks and reads that Daniel Jones goes through, but it's also the play design and the ability to scheme guys open, and that's definitely Jason Garrett's. He has a really hard time adjusting with that. So, yeah, I mean, I think that this offense is centered around Sterling Shepard as far as the pass game goes, and we'll see if they make that adjustment moving forward. But that was really funny to see.
Yeah, it was hilarious to see. I got a great kick out of it. Jake Who said, I think it's more Galladay doesn't fit. I I don't believe that. I think you can make this guy fit in any offense. I think everyone forgets how talented Kenny Galladay is just because he had to take a year off due to injuries. But you got to remember in 2019, this guy was absolutely phenomenal in every regard of being a wide receiver. He was a top 10 wide receiver in the league that year. So, like, I don't count out Kenny Galladay, man. If he's used correctly, I think he can be a very talented guy. I think you're right, probably, that Sterling Shepard is kind of the wide receiver one here just because of his targets, but Galladay's a great deep threat and someone that's being underutilized. So it is what it is, man. We'll have to see if he's used the right way because if he is used the right way, I feel like this Giants team could kind of uncap some of that potential that we were talking about earlier last week with Daniel Jones. Kai Berry said Sterling is a dog. I agree. Jake who said you don't see Shepard crying. Hey, it is what it is. Iconic
It
said
is
he can be dangerous. He certainly can be, man. I mean, the guy is one of the best deep ball catchers in the league. D-Ramfi said yes, but him yelling at his coach can't be good either. You're right. I mean, like how I'm sure that's gonna have some repercussions of yelling at his coach, right, Jared?
Well, certainly. I mean, he's probably going to be, I don't know. I mean, maybe in the doghouse, I guess, but like at the same time, the ownership's going to be like, why aren't you using this guy more?
Yeah.
So it's going to be just a mess and a disaster with drama coming. I don't know. And again, like I was on the fence of saying that he was a good trade piece for this team or good acquisition because I do feel like there's 3 or 4 guys on this team that do the exact same thing. He's just the best one at doing it. And so for me, it's going to be Sterling Shepard until, otherwise. And to John's comment, he's not crying because Shepard's getting all the targets. So, like, why would he be upset about that?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. For me, it's Sterling Shepard, and until they figure things out with Gallaudet, it's going to be a pretty downhill slope. We already saw him make his comments, which I'm sure that he got in trouble with, saying that things were going to be slow anyway, and that the culture for that team is just not where it should be right now. So it's been shown through the previous two games, and we'll see what they do moving forward.
I mean, the culture for this team was shown in the preseason. I don't know if you remember this, but like two of these fighters got into a fight during practice, and Judge
Yep.
treated them like high school players. He was like, "All right, get on the line. We're running. We're running for the rest of practice, and we're running until someone pukes." Like a
Yep.
classic
Can't
like
make
high
grown
school
men
line.
run.
And like
Can't make
so,
grown men run.
yeah, you can't. You just can't, man. Like especially these guys are getting paid millions and millions of dollars to be on the field right now. Like it just doesn't happen. So like I don't know. Kai Berry said yelling at coaches happens all the time and often doesn't have a negative impact. It all depends on personalities and culture. I agree
Yep.
with you for the most part, but I think it does have an impact here. Clearly, because of how I'm not going to say strict the head coaches are, but like just like how I don't know how to put this. I just think that with these coaches, it probably does matter, and it's going to be interesting. Connick said, "Weird seeing the Raiders as one of the only 7 teams that are 2-0. It is certainly weird to see the Raiders up there. It's a little bit of overreaction time, but we'll talk about that soon." Andrew P 5488 said, "Garrett needs to go down to high school coaching at best." I couldn't agree more. Kyrie said, "And Sterling looked like someone who could fight OKC dogs." Yeah, he did. Joe Judge is a boob, says B. Kent. I could not agree more about the Joe Judge comment. And yeah, we have plenty of people talking about Jason Garrett. I'm glad I could get the hype all or the chat all hyped up about Jason Garrett and stuff because
There you
it
go.
seems like a thing that we all love to talk about. But let's talk about some other headlines that came out of the NFL world yesterday. We got news that Bruce Arians said that the Buccaneers are one of the teams that are trying to contact Richard Sherman. Oh man, so we know that the Bucks are trying to reach out to Richard Sherman. We know that the 49ers potentially are trying to reach out to Richard Sherman. I want to hear what other teams you think might be trying to reach out as well, and who do you think the best fit would be?
Yeah, I think that I'm not sure if this was brought up, but the one team that came to mind immediately was the Baltimore Ravens. So if they're struggling on defense as much as they are over the past couple of weeks, I think they need somebody that comes in after that devastating injury or the several injuries that they've had. So that makes a lot of sense to me. I would see Baltimore in that mix of teams where I think that Tampa, obviously it's nice. I mean, I would love to see him opposite of Carlton Davis, but at the same time, I don't know if he would be best utilized there. That feels like more of a ring chase to me than anything else. Because I don't necessarily like. Yes, they gave up. Their secondary has not looked great, but they will get guys back. They don't have as many season injuries as Baltimore does, so that's kind of where I see that happening.
Yeah, gonna be interesting to see where that ends up because I'm a big Richard Sherman stan right now just because he was on the 49ers. He got us to that Super Bowl or helped our defense get to that Super Bowl. I really like him. I don't think he's a fit for the 49ers right now. I honestly thought the defense looked a lot better this past Sunday, so I'm not freaking out to the point where I'm like, we need to get another guy in our secondary. I think the rookie that we got in the 5th round looks solid. The cornerback, of course, the name's blanking on me because it's a really difficult name, but I really like him, and I think that the 49ers are going to be just fine. I agree with you about the Bucks, and I think the Ravens could be potentially the team that he goes to. All right, last thing we're going to talk about, or actually second to last thing we're going to talk about for the NFL news, 49ers running back situation. We know that Trey Sermon went out with a concussion this past Sunday, and we found out late yesterday, that JaMychal Hasty is going to be out for a few weeks due to a high ankle sprain. So we know the running backs that the 49ers have brought in. It's TJ Yeldon, Duke Johnson, Lamar Miller. They have Kerryon Johnson on the practice squad. They also have a healthy Trenton Cannon. What do you think they're doing here? Like, are they actually going to bring one of these guys onto the team? Maybe one of them onto the practice squad? How do you think they operate now with just Elijah Mitchell in the backfield?
Yeah. Again, I think that they are taking a wait and see approach on some of the guys that they have in the system already. You obviously have Jeff Wilson coming back soon. I know that Sermon is in concussion protocol, so it's probably going to take him a few weeks to get back in actual playing time. Hasty, we'll see. I think he's like week to week, isn't he? Like that's
Yeah,
not a long term thing.
no.
So I think they'll bring in some guys to sign to the practice squad. Maybe they bump one of them up to the active roster. It doesn't mean they're going to play at all. It just means that they'll have some more bodies in the backfield. So they'll probably sign one of these guys to the 53 and another one to the practice squad. not an, it's never really a bad thing to have Yeldon or a guy like that back there. I know that it sounds gross because we're all DFS players or season long players, but again, it's all about culture, right? And having the young guys learn from experienced vets, and I think that Yeldon does fit that vet role.
Yeah, I can buy into Yeldon. I can buy into really any one of those three guys as long as you get one of them. Um, I don't know. You need another back. Probably sign into the practice squad. Bring up Carry on to the active roster, and you call it a day. Just really sucks. I hope we don't have to. You made a comment yesterday that we're gonna have to run through like 47 running backs to get the job done this year, and I really hope that's not the case. But they were talking. I don't know if you were listening to it, Jared, but they were talking on the stream that we rated yesterday after 30 to lock. They were talking about that Shanahan offense and how you can put basically anyone back there, and they end up averaging 100 yards. I kind of
Yep.
agree with it, man. I mean, that's what it is at the end of the day, just because of all the schemes. Because Shanahan's such a genius when it comes to the run game. Yeah, it's just kind of like the running backs are always going to do well. It doesn't matter how old they are now. It certainly would help if it was just Raheem back there or Trey Sermon, but I think Elijah Mitchell or any one of these guys would do just fine.
Yeah, I mean, at what point do you start running Kittle out there? And if you need like 2 or 3 yards, I know
Yep.
that he can't block for himself, but why? I think he could be able to get 2 or 3 yards on a play.
I have no doubt. How long before it's just juice check? Like how long before they just make him the running back?
There you
It
go. I
seems
don't
like
know.
only a matter of time by now. Who knows? Um, all right. Last thing that I want to talk about. We're at the end of week 2. It was a good week 2. A lot of fun games to watch. I want your number one overreaction to week 2. Give it to me.
Number one overreaction.
Number one overreaction to week 2.
Oh, that's tough. Okay. I don't know. Let's see. Give me like five. Like this is actually tough because I can't pull one out of my hat here. Um, Overreactions. I think an overreaction would be that this. Hmm, yeah. Overreaction would be saying that the Panthers defense is good.
I like that. That's a solid one. I'm gonna say my overreaction is that the Raiders are good. The Raiders aren't good yet. Let's settle down. I know they're 2-0, but I think saying the Raiders are good is a little bit of a mistake. And I think that you're gonna see them take a step back as soon as they get into this divisional play. But we will have to see. Yeah, JQ said it too. Number one overreaction: Raiders win the AFC West. So going to be important to keep an eye on that. All right, anything you want to talk about for NFL before we move on to some MLB action?
No, it's we're excited for week 3. Obviously, uh, lots of quarterback injuries to monitor. So, a lot of insanely hot topics over the next couple of days. Then we'll be covering them all on this stream.
Yeah, going to be a lot of fun. All right, let's talk about some MLB because we had plenty of it. Salvador Perez hits its 46th home run, makes him the number one catcher, passing Johnny Bench. Really impressive to see, really awesome to see. I mean, who would have expected Salvador Perez to do this? I have two questions for you. One, we have the AL MVP, or we have all the MVP odds for the MLB, just showing you guys what Bet Online thinks who's going to win for MVP awards. And then I want to hear who's going to win the home run race because it's a tight race. I really thought it was Otani to lose. I thought it was going to be Otani or Vlad, and now Perez comes into the mix. And I see that Perez isn't even listed as an AL MVP. Like, he doesn't even have a chance at it. So, kind of shocks me in all honesty. I want to hear your thoughts. First of all, who wins the home run race? Who do you got?
Yeah, the home run race. I You got to go with the hot guy, right? Like Vlad has kind of tailed off slightly. I'm not going to say he can't pick it back up, but I do think that Salvi has that in him. Like his team, like there's nothing else that his team is playing for at this point. So it's just him and this thing. So I think they'll do everything in their power to make that happen. But again, I think we should look at honestly. It's like almost time. Maybe we do this closer towards the end of the week, if not next week, and look at what each team or what each player's look at like pitching matchups are going to be over that next week, and then we
There you
kind of
go.
have a better idea of what's gonna happen there. Now, again, him and Otani both those teams have nothing to play for outside of chasing those things. I don't think Otani's in the mix anymore for me, just because I do think that he's going to win that AL MVP, and it's kind of wrapped up. So maybe they I'm not going to say they sit him down, but we could see a scenario where he doesn't play as much down the stretch here. So I don't know. I think I have to go with the hot hand. I think I have to go with Salvi.
It's crazy. I did not expect this type of reaction from the chat, but you know, they keep me on my toes, man. I see a lot of people saying that they think that Vlad's gonna end up winning. I think the MVP. Maybe they're just saying he's gonna win the home run race, but I know a few people have said MVP. JQ said Vlad should win MVP. Only in MLB can a player who's not in the playoffs win an MVP award. Fish 43 said if Vlad wins the triple count, he better win MVP. And it's just yeah, Fish just iconic saying Vlad equals MVP. Look, go over to our friends over at Bet Online. You get plus 800 odds. That means you bet $10, you win 80. So, I go bet on Vlad to win MVP if you feel that strongly about it. Fish is bringing up how Otani's hitting 255. I don't know. The chat seems to think it's close. Jared, do you think it's close? Because I know BOL doesn't think so.
Between Otani and Vlad?
Yeah.
No, because he's a pitcher.
Because he's a pitcher, right? Like that's the main thing is the fact that you when I always have like a trouble explaining the MVP award to people. Who is the most valuable player in the league? Who would you want the most? For me, it's very easily Otani. It's a guy who can go out there and hit you 40 plus bombs, and then it's a guy who can also go out there and I don't know his record this season, but like I'm sure it's good. I'm sure he's won more games than he's lost at least, and he's looked like a damn good pitcher. So like I can't get behind Vlad. At the end of the day, Otani's gonna win MVP because Otani's the guy who can do both, and that's what it is.
Okay, I am going side by side with both the Royals record or the Royals schedule for the last several weeks and the Blue Jays. Now, the Blue Jays, to at the chat's point, for Vlad to hit more home runs than Salvi, have a pretty good schedule the rest of the way. They have the Twins or the Rays, obviously. That's obviously two tough matchups back to back days. They did lose last night. So now you get the Twins in Minnesota for 4 games. You get the Yankees for 3 games in Toronto. And then you finish the year off against the Orioles. And Josh, if they are anywhere near clinching a playoff spot or in the race to do that, Vlad could hit 4 home runs in that weekend and solidify that for himself.
Yeah.
On the other side of things, the record for the Royals is the Indians for 2 more games. You have the Tigers for 3 games in Comerica, and then you have the Indians again in Kansas City, and you finish the season off with the Twins as well. So again, strength of schedule I think leans towards Salvi, but again I don't know who's pitching for those teams, so I don't know. It's going to be really close, but I think I lean Salvi's way.
Yeah, I think I slightly lean Salvi's way, but we'll have to see. D Ramified said is in that case, then Josh, yes, Otani. Yeah, I mean like that's the case, man. That's what MVP is. That's what MVP is to me at least. It's who is the most valuable player. Who would you want on your team the most? There's no one close. It's Shohei Otani. Fish 43 says hitting and pitching isn't that hard. American players are stopped from doing that after college. If they breed that culture more, we'd see more pitchers slash hitters. I don't think that's the case, man. I don't think it. I think it is hard. I think that you can't be successful in both realms in the game. And all you have to look at is Brendan McKay, because Brendan McKay is a guy who is allowed to do both. And we've seen him struggle for the race. So like I don't think it's as simple as you're putting it out to be. I think it's tough for these players to do both. And so Otani doing it is it's awesome to see, man. And it's a good story. So that's why I think Otani's going to win MVP. Now, the NL MVP award, that's something we can talk about because I feel like this one's super close between everyone up top, or the two guys up top, Harper and Tatis. Harper right now the favorite to win MVP. Then you have Juan Soto, Max Muncy, Freddie Freeman, and Trey Turner. I feel like this is the two-man race right now between Harper and Tatis. Who do you think gets it done?
Well, it certainly isn't the guy that's fighting with his team. So I think that has a lot to do with it. But yeah, I mean, obviously people want to see the young guy win, but again, I think I have to give it to Harper. Like I don't know. The last several months or weeks of his performance have been nothing short of spectacular. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like we who was I feel like Freddie Freeman was leading this for a while, as well as Max Muncy too. But they've all fallen off a little bit now. I think they're focused on more of the playoff race, whereas Bryce Harper is literally dragging his team into the postseason.
He's trying his best, man. He's trying his best to carry that team. If he carries that team, that's going to be insane, considering that they got shut out by the Orioles last night. So I talked so highly about that offense yesterday, and it just did not come to play. But that comes later on in this segment. Tatis, yeah, I mean, unless this Padres team makes this spectacular run at the end of the year, ends up winning, I don't know, you'd probably have to win 7 or 6 out of your last 9 games, and that I just don't think that's going to happen. So if it does happen, then that's great. I think Tatis might end up getting this MVP spot, but I think most likely it's going to be Harper in the MVP spot. I see some talk about BetOnline in the chat. I know you were in there. Yeah, guys, you can use BetOnline anywhere. It doesn't matter if your state doesn't allow it. Luckily, I'm in a state that allows it in Tennessee, but I know when I lived up in Maine, I didn't have a betting site to use because they didn't allow betting on, those usual sites. And so I was able to use BOL, and it worked perfectly fine. And you're able to withdraw and everything else. So BOL, place to be for sure, without a doubt. Make sure you use that link if you are a new time user. Will Harp said Harper just wants to break Josh's top 10. He's trying to prove me wrong, man. He heard me say it. He tuned in for the podcast that day, and he was like, all right, fuck this Josh guy. Let's get the job done. Jay Cruz said Harper carrying that Phillies team is like Curry carrying the Warriors. Yeah, it's very similar. Fish43 says Freeman sucks and that Alonso is the NL MVP. I feel like we got some homer takes going on in the chat. Give me your final predictions right now. Who do you have as the AL MVP winner, and who's the NL MVP winner?
Yeah, I just don't, unless something crazy happens that swings things. Like, things are kind of already decided at this point, right? I know that I hate to bag on Vlad because I really want him to win. It's just he has a very tough hill to climb. Can he hit 10 home runs in the last week and a half of the season? It's unlikely. I don't even know if that would swing things. I think it's clearly Ohtani for this year. The MLB has just been on this Ohtani thing all season long, so it wouldn't shock me to see if it's more of a. I'm not going to say he didn't earn it because that's not true, but they've been definitely tailing him to be that MVP and that new guy and that brand for the league. And look, how good would it look if I know Vlad is not necessarily from the U.S. either, so don't take this the wrong way. But how good would it be having a guy overseas win the MVP here to have baseball be that like this is so good for the brand. So that for me,
Yeah.
that's kind of how I see this thing going. And on the NL side, I think it's Harper. I don't think Tatis has a chance, especially with his team in the shambles and the way it is. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's kind of how I view that.
Yeah, I will say that, like, if you're making that argument for Ohtani, I think you have to make the same argument for Tatis. I know Tatis' team has been struggling. I know there's a chance he doesn't make the playoffs, but Tatis has been that same guy this year. Tatis has been a guy that the MLB has been pushing. You even see it on Twitter, how everyone starts raging at the MLB account because they posted another video about Tatis. And so, like, I don't know. Tatis is the MLB's darling right now. He's a player that gets people excited. He's a player that young people want to watch, so he increases viewership. And Tatis is everything that the MLB wants. So I think in that regard, maybe, just maybe, you could see him win MVP. I don't know. I lean Harper. I think obviously it's going to be Ohtani for the AL side, but I think that NL side is going to be pretty close. All right, we have a video to watch before we get into our next segment. It's a little bit of a retirement video from JJ Redick. We heard that he's retiring this morning, so let's watch this.
Welcome to the Old Man of the Three with JJ Redick and Tommy Alter, presented by Cash App and brought to you by 342 Productions. Today is a very special episode. The title of this podcast episode is simply Retirement. Tommy's going to join me in a second, but I have written some notes, some things that I just wanted to convey. So it was 30 years ago this month that my family moved to Roanoke, Virginia, on Lost Mountain Road, and my dad immediately put up a hoop for me and my older sisters to play on. It was on that court that my basketball dreams began to take shape. It was an uneven patch of dirt, gravel, and grass. And as a 7-year-old boy, I dreamed of playing at Duke. As I got older, I dreamed of playing in the NBA. The last 30 years of basketball have been beyond my wildest dreams. I never could have imagined that I would have played basketball for this long. After years of youth leagues, AAU, high school basketball, 4 years at Duke, and 15 years in the NBA, I'm retiring from the game that I love so much. Going to last season, I wanted it to be my last year, but wasn't sure how the season would play out. It was difficult for a number of reasons, being injured, being away from my family.
All right, so that's what we needed to see. There's this is more. If you want to go check it out on Twitter, it was posted by The Athletic an hour ago, so you can go check it out there. But just it's crazy to see, man. I see, I was reading some of the comments as the video was going along. Just people saying that it's surprising. He didn't seem like he was at the retirement stage yet. Like he looked like he could keep going. I think at the end of the day, he says it in the video a little bit later, but he said it's time for me to be a dad. And sometimes just the personal side of things takes over the game side of things. And I think that was the case with Redick, and that's perfectly fine. Good for him, right?
Yep, over a decade and a half in the game. You could even say that the last 25 years he's dedicated his life to that. Put everything else aside to make sure that he had, taken care of his family and everything like that. So I definitely like. You can't say the writing was on the wall, but it felt like it was a little bit after last season where he didn't play, just because like he got traded and then he wasn't happy about the situation. He goes in depth later in the video to talk about how last season was supposed to be his retirement season, but the fact that he got traded to a place that he didn't want to go kind of felt like and then nothing else kind of fit in terms of going somewhere else to kind of see the season off. So I think he's making the right call. He's already making different business moves. As you can tell, that announcement was actually from his podcast. If you guys have not watched that or want to listen to something new about JJ Redick or the NBA in general, it's called Old Man in the Three. So you can go check that out. I think it's a really good show. They have Zion on there quite a bit, as well as a lot of NBA players that talk about previous and current players that just talk about struggles in the league and things like that. So it's a really good podcast. I think that JJ is going to be great. I think I wouldn't actually be surprised if we saw him in some kind of broadcasting thing in the future. But yeah, I did want to bring up because I know we saw something in the chat here about where he ranks all time for 3-point shooters. I have that exact stat for you, LC Moore. I
Uh-huh.
actually made sure I got that for you. So this comes from Tommy Beer on Twitter. Says that Redick retires as one of the only three players in the NBA to make more than 2,000 career threes and 2,000 free throws while shooting above 40% from three and above 89% from the free throw line. The only two players to do that in the club are Steph Curry and Ray Allen. So that kind of shows you
Wow.
where the benchmark of where he played his entire career.
That blew my mind. I know you told me the stat before we got on the show, but I was kind of half listening because I was doing some other stuff. But now to hear it on the show and be fully paying attention to it, that's an absolutely insane stat. He's so underrated. Econics just said it. Very underrated when it comes to his shooting. Yeah, I feel like people don't give him the respect he deserves because he's not that exact same player now. But guy's a beast. Guy's a 3-point. He's an amazing 3-point shooter. Where would you rank him? Is he top? I mean, you said he's one of the three to do that. Is he top 3 for you? Is he top 5? Where are you leaning?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's very tough to rank shooters, especially now with the 3-point line in place. But if we're talking 3-point line shooters in general, I think you have to rank Curry first. And now, like, I know he's still playing, but he's going to just keep improving. So, yeah, I think it's Curry now. And for me, I have a hard time putting Redick any further down than 4 or 5. So I think he's top 3 just based on the stat that I saw alone.
For sure. All right. That was just a little bit of news that we got from the NBA side of things. Just helps us bring us in to talk about some of these futures because NBA season starts 4 weeks from now, Jared. 4 weeks. I mean, like, it just feels like it creeped up on us completely. Let me make sure I'm right in saying that it's 4 weeks because no, it starts on a Tuesday. Actually, it might be 5 weeks. Yeah, it might be 5 weeks. Regardless, though, we have it coming up soon. It's coming up very soon. So let's talk about some futures. We'll start out divisional futures, go into some conference futures, and then talk about some championship futures. But anything jump off the page to you here with these divisional futures?
Division futures. I mean, these are always weird, right? Like nobody ever looks at the division futures and says, "Hey, who are all the Atlantic teams? Who are all the Central teams?
Yeah,
Like,
right.
can you name all the Pacific teams?" Like that, it's kind of strange that we never really talk about this, and the media never really discusses this. They always talk about it in the conference portion of things. I actually think that um, the thing that sticks out, obviously, the two most competitive are the Pacific, which is basically all the teams in California, and then the Phoenix Suns. And also something that's very interesting is the Southeast, which is basically all the Florida teams and Georgia and the Hornets. So for me, I think that the toughest, and this obviously plays into the conference thing too, but the toughest division is the Lakers, Suns, Warriors, Clippers, Kings. Could easily see the Warriors coming out there plus 400 and taking that thing. So I know that the Lakers obviously probably should be minus money. The only reason BetOnline probably doesn't have that is just because it hasn't been bet yet that much. So
No.
give me the Warriors as a sleeper at plus 400.
Yeah, I think it's kind of it's kind of crazy to see him at plus 400 here. I mean, like, I don't know. I feel like it should be a little bit closer, but I feel like Suns are priced appropriately. I feel like Lakers maybe should be the favorites here, like the actual favorites, like be a minus money play. Um, but yeah, I don't know. That division is going to be very interesting. I mean, you have a ton of talent in that division. It's kind of sad that the Clippers are probably going to be without Kawhi because they would be a competitor in the division. Just a lot of good teams in that division. So hard to pick who exactly you like. Uh, Man, I don't see anything that like jumps off the page necessarily. I guess let's talk about the Southeast Division because you have the Heat as favorites. They're going to have Victor Oladipo. They're also going to have Kyle Lowry. Both of them should be fully healthy by the time the season starts. Do the Hawks have a chance? I mean, we all know how deep the Hawks went last season. Do they have a chance at winning this division?
Yeah, it feels a little fluky, but again, I think that they're in a good spot personnel wise. Now, can they stay healthy is the clear thing. Can Miami stay healthy is the other question. Don't you have a lot of guys in Miami who just have, especially at Depot, that just can't stay healthy throughout the entire season. So I know that they made a lot of moves. I know that they have a lot of veterans now, but again, I, you know, I'm a little bit down on Miami compared to where everybody else is.
Yeah, I could definitely understand why. Someone said that the Nuggets look good at plus money, plus 325 for the Denver Nuggets. Hopefully, Murray's fully healthy and coming back. And, if they have a fully healthy team, that team is dangerous. So, Nuggets plus 325, they have to beat out the Jazz, but can they do it?
I think that so I think the Jazz right now at that minus money, is that minus money or is that plus money?
That is
It's minus.
minus money for the Jazz at minus
Yeah, that's,
275.
yeah, that sticks out to me. I don't think that that should be as big as it is. I think
Yeah.
that they should be closer to the Nuggets. And I think a lot of it obviously has to do with the Timberwolves and the Thunder. But yeah, give me the Nuggets over the Jazz.
I also like you're gonna hate me for this, but you kind of ratted on my Lakers team, so I'll rat a little bit on your Bucks team. The Bulls made so many additions in the offseason. They obviously all had to meld together really well for this to happen. But plus 800 just seems like it sticks out after everyone they added. I mean, they got so much better this offseason and look like a team that can actually kind of compete. So I'm willing to take a flyer on plus 800. I already see people saying nah in the chat, so it is what it is. Black Eddie says, super question for you. Does Russell Westbrook finish a better point guard than CP3 if he gets a ring and CP3 does not? Westbrook has better stats and more wins. I don't know where you stand on this side, so I'm excited to hear your take here. But I feel like Westbrook, in my eyes, already finishes as a better point guard than Chris Paul does.
Yeah, I mean, CP3 is going to be a Hall of Famer. I think Westbrook will as well. So it's kind of like picking apples and oranges, but
Yeah.
I feel like it's two different styles of play, right? CP3 is like he's the point guard. He is the point guard of our time, our generation. So Westbrook, different animal. I do think that he slows down over the course of the next 5 seasons. I think this is his best shot to win a ring. So if he does, he's technically has better, like yes, I know he has better stats and more. Does he have more wins? Is that a real thing? I don't know.
I have no
I mean,
clue. I can't
maybe he
look it
does.
up, so
Maybe he does. Maybe we'll look at that. But I trust your judgment, Black Eddie. I think that you're probably right. But it's closer than you think it is,
no,
probably. So
probably.
again, if Westbrook wins a ring, that's kind of what people go off of, right? That's what Giannis was criticized with. That's what LeBron was criticized with, like more rings or even getting one at all. So CP3 obviously better, well known. He has the mentality there. He also is the more decorated Olympian. So I don't know. Westbrook is probably going to be ending up in the stats a lot higher than CP3 will. I don't know if I can. Well, yeah, give me Westbrook over CP3 at the end of the day.
Will Harp says, who makes better commercials? Yeah, you said Westbrook over CP3, right? I agree. Look, at the end of the day, it's just the fact that Westbrook is I'm not gonna call him the triple. Maybe you can call him the triple double king. I don't know, man. Like the triple doubles that he has are absolutely insane, and something that you just don't see that much. You don't see ever. You don't see the rate that he gets triple doubles is just not known of. So like like CP3, his passing is really impressive. He's one of the smartest basketball players I think in the whole entire league, but we've seen people be good passers and have that level of basketball IQ before. I don't think we've seen the level of athleticism and just everything that we've seen from Westbrook. Jake, who said, "Damn, absolutely no respect for CP3. Paul is a way better overall player. Russ is just a stat patter like Harden." I don't think he's a stat patter. I think that's honestly, it seems like a take that a lot of people have, but like I just don't believe in it. I think that he does contribute. I think they ended up winning. The Wizards ended up winning. Man, I don't want to say anything because I don't remember the exact stat. They had a crazy winning record, though, when Russell Westbrook did have a triple-double last year. So take it for what it's worth.
I have some updates on the actual records
Okay,
of
here we go.
this. So I want to make sure that I get this right because there, okay. So Russell Westbrook in his career has 567 wins, and Chris Paul has 698. So I think that
Yeah,
over time, obviously Westbrook will outplay him in terms of how long he plays for. So that probably does pass in 2 seasons, but um, yeah, I think that Westbrook probably is the more decorated player overall.
I agree. I think at the end of the day, and it's not no respect for CP3. Like we said, he's going to be a Hall of Famer. It's just I think I hold Westbrook in a higher regard. All right. Last thing, or not last thing, but another thing I want to talk about with this Phillies team. Are they moving Simmons? Are they not moving Simmons? What do you think is happening here? Because we got news yesterday that Philly wants Simmons to come to training camp, and Simmons said, "No, not going to happen, man. I'm not coming to
Yeah,
training camp at all."
no,
One, do you think he ends up coming to training camp? And two, when is this deal going to happen? Because we're now a month or so away from the season.
no. Is he allowed to not go to camp and just induce fines and then move somewhere else? Because I think that's what's going to happen. Like
Might be.
I don't think he comes to camp. I don't think he goes to practice. I don't think he suits up for this team, and we could see him miss the first like month or so of the season before somebody else makes a move for him.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see. I don't know what exactly is going to happen, but I feel like they need to move him. They burned that bridge. There's no coming back from the things that they said. And yeah, when you hurt a player's psyche that much, it's very hard to get him back in. So I don't think there's a way to get him back in, and I think most likely he ends up being off the team. I don't know if it's going to be by opening day, but I know it's going to be before the trade deadline. Yeah, a
Sure.
lot of people saying Simmons is done in Philly. All right, really quickly, let's pick some conference winners. If you had to choose one team from the Eastern Conference, preferably don't choose the Brooklyn Nets, but if you had to choose one team from this Eastern Conference, who would it be?
I mean, I can't pick the Bucks either.
I knew you were going to pick the Bucks, but I'd allow it at plus 425.
It's a good price. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, give me. So I don't believe in Philly at all. I'm not gonna take them. And I just said that Miami is not gonna make it. So, man, like
I'll put
there's
this.
so many holes in all of these teams that I
Yeah.
don't even want to pick them. Give me a long shot flyer on the Bulls at plus 2,000.
Yes, sir. Let's go Bulls, baby. I don't know why I'm a Bulls fan all of a sudden, but yeah, I like the pick. Um, yeah, give me. This is hard. Like this is not any like if you don't say the Brooklyn Nets, if you're trying to find that long shot, it's kind of difficult. But give me. I hate to just piggyback on your take, but I'm gonna do exactly that. Give me the Bulls as well. I think the Bulls have, if everything melds together right for the Chicago Bulls team, could be really impressive to see what they do. All right, Western Conference. I'm not allowed to choose my Lakers. If I had to choose one team to win the division, it would be, you know what? Give me the Denver Nuggets at plus 1200. I think this team is so like counted out in every regard. The fact that they're plus 1200 is insane. When this team's fully healthy, they can be one of the best teams in the Western Conference.
I agree. So this is an anticipation early of John Wall going to the Clippers. So I'm gonna go plus 850.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, you could definitely see it happen. I know they're looking for trades for John Wall, but going to be interesting to see what happens with that Clippers team and to see when Kawhi comes back in the season. And, that Clippers team is going to be one of the bigger storylines of this season. All right, just want to give a shout out to our friends over at betonline.ag. I know we've been talking about them a ton already on today's show, but it's the best site to go to for betting. I mean, you can go here, you can bet on futures all you want, you can bet on player props, you can even go bet on the casino, you can go to the race book, you can play poker, you can do whatever you want on betonline.ag when it comes to your sports betting, horse betting, and every need that you have when it comes to gambling. We love our friends over at betonline.ag. They have a great focus on the player approach that we absolutely love. It goes into the odds boosters that we saw yesterday. They have odds boosters today as well. They have 2 MLB odds boosters. They even have some NFL ones. Look at these. So this one is Kansas City wins the division, Green Bay wins their division, Tampa Bay wins their division, and Buffalo wins their division. All of those together, that was plus 300. It's now at plus 425. Like, I don't know if those are gimmies necessarily, but they all seem pretty close. And to get plus 400 odds to where you can turn $10 into $42.50, I like taking a chance on it. I can at least get behind it. So, what do you think? Is the NFL futures booster at least in play?
That one is, yeah, for sure. And you can get that now more than ever. Obviously, it's only going to go for a certain amount of time. But yeah, I see that you're hovering over Kyler Murray. Dude, some of these odds boosters are crazy, especially last night's, right? Like, we'll
Yeah.
talk about that. And again, once again, guys, we are going to be giving away $50 straight cash because we did hit one of these future odds boosters last night with Aaron Rodgers throwing for 3 touchdowns and winning the game. So, we will be doing that here at the end of the stream. But yeah, go ahead and talk about Kyler Murray to win MVP.
Kyler Murray, the most impressive QB we've seen this season by a long shot. Been absolutely amazing. We talked about him yesterday on the DFS show. Was plus 600 to win MVP, now plus 800 to win MVP. I think those are insane odds. I gotta pull up the MVP odds really quick too, just to see where do they have the rest of rest of the guys lined up at. Awards. Oh, was that Shanahan? Shanahan's the top coach for Coach of the Year. Oh, I'm a happy camper now. I don't need to hear anything else. Um, Defensive Player of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year, Most Valuable Player. Oh, Tom Brady's the favorite. That's interesting. Think Tom Brady has a chance at an MVP?
We talked about the revenge tour, right?
Yeah,
Like, could be something that he takes on his back, and he's like, "Yep, I'm gonna do it." Very impressive first 2 games as well. I think he is up there as far as like top 3 touchdown passes.
yeah.
So I had to check that stat, but just knowing from what's happened, I'm sure he's up there. Yeah, I don't see why. It seems like the first 6, 7 weeks was planned out just for the Bucks specifically. So I would not. And he's gonna break a record next week, so it's gonna be pretty
That's
crazy.
true. He's going to break a record. I'm sure that does help that MVP case. Also have Patrick Mahomes. But Kyler Murray, your third best favorite, and you get him at plus 800, I can totally buy into a little bit of cheddar on the Kyler Murray play. All right, anything else you want to say about our good friends over at betonline.ag, Jared?
No, I mean, just we've been able to do pretty well outside of Sunday this year. I mean, I'm winning, and this is obviously going to regress a little bit, but I'm winning 65% of my bets. So through a
Wow.
week, like 2.5 weeks, so it's pretty good. Again, use the daily odds boosters, whether it be for MLB or NBA or anything like that. Willie Beeman, thank you for the follow, sir. So for me, I always look at these odds boosters while we're doing 30 to lock and while we're doing research for the podcast and things like that. So if you guys are seeing things like Josh or Sean is really high on a player, look at that odds booster thing and see if you can come up with a way, or maybe a player prop to see if you can capitalize and get double dip on certain things, right? Because you're already playing DFS. Why not double dip and play on here as well and make some more money?
Exactly. That's the thing for me. It's like it's a way to make more money. It's a way to, I'm not gonna say double your earnings necessarily from DFS, but it's just a way to make more money. I'd say great bets over there. Love to see it. I completely agree. The bets are insane over at betonline.ag. All right, we've hit the end of the show, Jared. We've already gone over a little bit. So any final notes before we get out of here?
No, no final notes for me. We'll see you guys here in about 2 hours for the NFL, the Strong Side stream for Tuesday. DraftKings first look for Week 3. The winner of the $50 straight cash from last night's Bet Online promotion for the Packers game is going to be LC Moore 91. Congratulations, sir. Make sure to DM me on Discord for your PayPal information or however you take that, and we'll take care of you here this morning.
Awesome. Great to see. And also, we have a FanDuel voucher to give away. We give one away every single show. So you guys should always stick around towards the end. That way, so we can give you guys those FanDuel vouchers. The FanDuel voucher that we're giving away is going to go to... Ooh, I get to make this decision. I'm going to give it to D-Ramified. Congratulations, D-Ramified, on winning a FanDuel voucher. Make sure to... Or I don't think we even need you to contact us on Discord. We should be good to go. So... Thank you all for hanging out with us this morning. We're going to be back tomorrow morning and going to be back every day after for the week. So make sure to stay tuned. As always, my name is Joshua Reimer. Good morning and good skill.